Welcome to Resourcevol Visionaries, the podcast where we explore inspiring stories from the nonprofit sector. This podcast is a free global learning resource for nonprofit professionals, dedicated to sharing innovative solutions and addressing challenges within the nonprofit community. In each episode, we'll dive into real-life examples of how individuals and organizations are making a difference, guided by the Vision for Volunteering's 5 key themes: awareness and appreciation, power, equity and inclusion, collaboration, and experimentation. Whether you're a seasoned nonprofit leader or just starting out, you'll find valuable insights and inspiration to help you in your mission to create positive change and shape the future of volunteering.
Hey everyone, welcome to this deep dive we're doing into SNJ Charitable Trust. They work in the UK and in India.
Okay.
And their focus is on things like health and education and empowering communities.
Got it.
But here's the really interesting part.
Yeah.
They are entirely volunteer run.
Entirely, yeah.
Even at the CEO level.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so we've got excerpts from their website and some notes from a conversation with their strategic director, Jenny Murphy.
Okay, cool.
And we're going to really dive deep into, how they managed to make such a huge impact with this unique approach.
It's really remarkable when you think about it.
So how do they actually pull that off?
Well, it all comes down to the volunteers themselves. And we're talking about a pretty dedicated group here, around 70 individuals from all walks of life.
Okay.
You've got 9-year-olds running fundraising events, families volunteering together, working professionals lending their expertise, and even people in their 80s offering support.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Such a diverse range of people all coming together like that.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder, how do they ensure that everyone is engaged and empowered?
Yeah.
It must take a lot of effort to manage such a diverse group of people, especially with such a wide range of, ages and experience levels.
That's a good point. And that's where I think their approach to volunteer management really shines. They have these open role descriptions, so volunteers can contribute based on their strengths and interests.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And they also really prioritize giving volunteers real ownership over their tasks and projects.
I see.
Jenny Murphy specifically highlighted how they encourage volunteers to choose what they want to do and even take on leadership roles.
Wow.
So it's almost like a choose-your-own-adventure model.
Yeah.
That's very different from that kind of traditional image of volunteers, just stuffing envelopes or making phone calls.
Right.
These volunteers are leading the charge.
Exactly. And I think that approach has a couple of really interesting effects.
Okay.
First, it attracts a much wider range of volunteers.
Right.
Because people feel like they can genuinely make a difference using skills they already have.
Yeah.
And secondly, it leads to a much higher level of ownership and commitment because volunteers are really invested in these projects that they've helped shape from the very beginning.
Right. If you're passionate about something, you're going to put a lot more of yourself into it.
Exactly. It's like they've managed to create this perfect synergy between the needs of the organization and the aspirations of the volunteers.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to this kind of deeper aspect of their vision.
Mm-hmm.
You can see reflected in some of the statements from the website, nothing gives you more happiness than seeing someone flourish. They're not just focused on outputs. They're really invested in the well-being and the growth of these individuals.
Yeah, you can see that coming across strongly in their mission, too.
Yeah.
With their focus on lifelong learning and economic self-sufficiency.
Right. And I think that speaks to kind of a broader commitment to social justice.
Yeah.
But by focusing on those who are often marginalized or overlooked,
Mm-hmm.
they're really trying to, tackle those systemic inequalities and work towards a more equitable society.
Okay, so let's get into something that really caught my attention.
Yeah.
This zero top slicing concept that they emphasize.
Okay.
Essentially, every single donation goes directly to the cause with zero administrative overhead. It's just pure impact.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. I imagine it's incredibly motivating for the volunteers to know that, every ounce of effort they put in is directly translated into results.
It feels like their entire structure is really designed to maximize impact and minimize waste.
Absolutely.
These volunteers are proving that we don't need complex bureaucracies or these massive budgets to create positive change in the world.
Right.
We just need the commitment and the opportunity to contribute.
And that's a message that I think resonates really deeply with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
SNJ is a shining example of what's possible when we empower individuals to lead change and create the future they want to see.
Do volunteers actually get to see The real world changes happening?
They do. SNJ is very transparent about their impact.
Yeah.
They share impact reports with their volunteers so they can see how their work is making a difference.
Yeah, it really is inspiring to see how they've, kind of built this whole ecosystem where passion and impact go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's really quite remarkable. And it's not just about warm, fuzzy feelings either.
Right.
They've got the data to prove that this model is effective.
Yeah.
They're seeing real improvements in the lives of their beneficiaries, whether it's improved mental well-being, increased educational opportunities, or a stronger sense of community connection.
And that's what makes SNJ so compelling. But we've been focusing a lot on the positives.
Right.
What about the challenges? Are there any limitations that you see with this model?
Well, I think it's an important question. No model is perfect.
Right.
And I think one potential challenge could be volunteer retention. When you're relying solely on volunteers, you're constantly needing to find new people and get them up to speed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that takes a lot of time and resources.
And I imagine maintaining consistency and training and making sure everyone's on the same page, with the mission could be tricky as well, especially with such a large and diverse group.
Exactly. And funding could also be a consideration.
Okay.
Their zero top slicing approach is great.
Right.
But it might make it harder to invest in things like infrastructure.
Yeah.
Or take on bigger projects that might need a bit of operational funding.
It's a balancing act, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You want to maximize your impact, but you also need to make sure that the organization can survive in the long term.
Absolutely.
It really highlights the complexities of running a charity, especially one with such a unique model.
It does, and I think it also shows how important it is to be adaptable and innovative.
Right.
For SNJ to continue to be successful, they need to be willing to constantly look at their approach, address new challenges, and change as the communities they serve change.
So what can we learn from SNJ and their approach?
SNJ Charitable Trust has given us a glimpse of what's possible when we embrace the power of volunteerism, when we trust in human potential, and when we commit to building a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Their story is a call to action. It's an invitation to step into our own power, to find our purpose.
Right. They've shown us that a volunteer-led model can be not only sustainable, but also incredibly powerful in addressing critical social issues and building a brighter future for all.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into SNJ Charitable Trust, we hope you're leaving feeling inspired and like you can make a difference too. Thanks for joining us on this exploration, and until next time, keep diving deep.
Yeah, keep diving deep.
And keep making a difference.
If you have a story you'd like to share or know of any resourceful visionaries doing great things in the nonprofit sector, we'd love to hear from you. Please get in touch by emailing hello@resourcevol.com. You could be featured on an upcoming episode, helping to inspire your nonprofit professional peers around the world and shape the future of volunteering. In the meantime, remember to subscribe to this podcast and follow Resourcevol on social media for more inspiring content and valuable insights.